Thank you all for joining Darien Library this evening for organizing your time with Ronni Eisenberg. Ronnie's joining us this evening for the first time. She's a professional organizer with over 25 years of experience in the organization field. Over the years, she has written 10 books on organization, and her #1 hit, Organize Yourself, has sold more than 1 million copies worldwide. Organizing can be impactful, and Ronni is determined to help people transform their homes and their lives. Before we begin, I'd like to mention that programs at Darien Library are made possible by the annual Friends of the Library campaign. We thank you for your support to make programs like this, as well as our collections, available to the community. I hope everyone's ready to find more time in their day. I know I am, and I'm now going to pass the mic over to Ronni.
Thank you. I'm so happy to be here. And actually, I'm not in Connecticut today. I'm on the West Coast, so that's why it looks so bright here, which is what I love about teaching online, is you can be anywhere. So I'm really excited to be here and talk to you about organization and time management. I thought I'd give you a little bit of my background so you understand how I got started. It's a good story. It was actually over 40 years ago. I was a business reporter for Dun & Bradstreet, and though I loved my job, I thought, if I stayed, I think I would just become a reporter or a manager of reporters, and that's not what I wanted to do, but I didn't know what I wanted to do. So a friend of mine who was a career counselor gave me a battery of career planning tests, and the only thing the test showed was that I was super off the charts organized. Wow. I said, you got to be kidding. I mean, telling me I'm organized is like saying I have brown hair and I can swim. And he said, no, you can really teach other people this skill. So I went home thinking thanks, but no thanks. And then, as luck would have it, this other friend of mine, who is a reporter for the New York Times, was writing an article on a new phenomenon. It was a new group of women around the country who made a business helping others get organized. And she said, if they can do it, so can you, because you're so organized. I said, okay, put me in the article. I'll go into business. So I had to promise practically my firstborn. I swore I'd go into business. I quit my job, and there I was. It was a Tuesday in February, and I set up office at my dining room table at my home with my home phone line. I didn't even have a business line at that point, nor did I have a desk. I was sitting there with my pen and manila pad of paper, hoping and praying the phone would ring. Well, the first call came in at 9 a.m. In those days, we waited until 9, and the phone didn't stop for 6 months. It just blasted this whole idea of helping people get organized. And I've loved it ever since. I'm still doing the same thing. I love it. I love teaching organization. But it's interesting because the problems I saw 40 years ago, I still see today. And many of the solutions are the same. Here's basically what has changed. 40 years ago, you would have said, I have 10 things on my list I should have done yesterday. Today, you would say, I've got a whopping 25. I'm overworked, overwhelmed, on the verge of collapse. And it's true, because there's so many more expectations, so many more choices. With digital is great, digital everything, but there's no such thing anymore as a grace period to answer a letter. Now everything is immediate on email. And so it does create more stress and pressure on people. But remember, so many things have stayed the same. People call me in because of time, paper, clutter, closets, the same problems. We're going to give you the link to my blog or how you can reach me if you need to, which is my email. And just at the end of the presentation, I have a few points that I'll go over with you, but please just listen, sit back, enjoy, don't take notes. So we're going to start with our first slide. Okay, well, let's just stop here. Here's my blog if you would like to find the information, blog.ronnieeisenberg.com. And you can reach me at ronnige@yahoo.com. Just let me know where you're from so I can get back to you right away, and I always do. Okay, good. So, do you find yourself constantly racing to catch up on everything in your life, and things just keep being heaped onto the mess? This is because organization requires continual upkeep. It needs to be maintained, it needs to be managed, and being organized includes taking the time to keep up with everything by maintaining it through the simple systems you've created. Rather than spending all your time running around like an out-of-breath crazy person, change gears, put things back in the right place, archive an email, and clear your inbox, or actually put the papers in that file. It does take less time to keep up regularly than to catch up on things that have been you've been avoiding for so long. We'll go into more detail at the very end. Okay. 1,000 myths. The impact of disorganization on everyone is downright frustrating. It's more than not responding to emails and texts, or forgetting to show up, or showing up on the wrong day or the wrong time. It's a series of myths and excuses that really do get old by day 2. And that reminds me of a client of mine who is this fabulous real estate agent in the city, and she was getting an award. So she got her hair done and her nails done and a new outfit, and she even had a limousine take her to the event. And she got there on time, knocking on the door, nobody was answering. She didn't understand what had happened. She got home, she realized she was at the right place, the right time, but on the wrong day. So that's why it's always good to check before you leave the house. So it happens to everyone. Okay, here are some examples. Myth 1. I know that my desk and chair are piled with sacks and papers and books, but I just heard this last night. I know where everything is and can find it if I need it. Well, maybe in about 20, 25 minutes you can. Myth 2. I'm running late because of traffic. No, you're running late because you're running late and you didn't leave enough time, plus an extra 15 minutes for the unexpected to get to your appointment. Okay. You can make a lot of paper out of this. So this is really common, and this takes an awful long time to, it takes up too much of your time to organize. It's much better to have a filing system. Okay. We're back to myth 3. It's not my fault. There were too many obstacles or a series of distractions or others taking me hostage and sabotaging my time. It may not be your fault, but how you turn it around and find solutions is the difference between being super organized and disorganized. Can we just go back for a second to the chair with the paper? I was having a discussion with someone last night. He's not the neatest, but he can he's a doctor, put his hands on anything when he needs to. Problem is when there's so much clutter, so many things piled, is you become distracted and you lose your focus and you're not as productive. And it can be really irritating because your eye goes from pile to pile. So you are less productive in terms of getting things done. So that is really the problem with piles and clutter. Okay, we can move on. And then we did that. Myth 4. I don't have time. Well, who does? Most of us are still overworked, overstressed, and sometimes feel on the verge of collapse. Still, if you want something done, ask a busy person, because they know how to navigate their time. And people do make time for the things that they really want to, or hopefully they do. Celebrating birthdays, talking to and spending time with friends, at least we should, because it's the best part of life. If it's important, you'll find the time for it. Don't buy into myths. This is the biggest one, multitasking. It doesn't work. Our brains have their own agenda, and something or someone always suffers. Our brains are not wired to do too many things at once. Sure, I can listen to music and cook, but once I start juggling too many things, or actually more than two, something suffers. You can't do it all well. Time is money. Actually, time is time. You can't put a price on it, and when you're out of time, it's gone and you can't get it back, which is why we're going to organize our time today. Superwoman and Superman. You've heard or people say that they want it all, they can have it all. No, you can't. Nobody can. I'm a whiz at getting things done. I can't have it all. In real life, you could have a wonderful life, a beautiful life, you could have abundance, but you can't do it all, and you can't have it all. Unless, of course, you're living on the moon. This super person myth creates such unrealistic expectations that set us up for misery. Okay. It's all about prioritizing. Correct me if I'm wrong, but maybe this sounds like you. Your to-do list is longer than the novel you still haven't written or gotten around to finishing yet, and you add more to it 20 times a day. The overwhelming number of commitments starts to make you nervous, and it feels as if your mind has to focus on a million different things at once. This is a classic example of someone who's unable to prioritize. This is key to organization. And that's probably my most important tip. If I were to take actually 11 books and come up with the number one tip that will make a difference in your life, the one tip, if you do nothing else, it's to prioritize. Because no matter what you think, not everything has the same value or weight. If you don't know what your priorities are, you ask yourself, what's the most important thing for me to do right now? What must get done? What can wait? The dishes can wait. I've got to get out the door to that appointment. So I ask myself this question constantly, and I'm very organized because it helps me focus and understand what my priority is for the week, for the day, for the moment. Okay. Procrastination is real, and everyone procrastinates. Let me guess, you tend to put off things today thinking you'll get to it tomorrow. The problem with procrastination is that you have other things to do, which gets moved along. So it just piles on is what it does. And then you're overwhelmed and you don't know what to do. Procrastination is the worst kind of disorganization because it seeps into everything. And this persistent problem is usually caused by uncertainty. You don't know how to do it or how to get started. And then there's shifted priorities. You'd rather be doing something else, or fear of failure. But just for a moment, think about this. Try projecting yourself into the future. Consider how you'll feel in the future if you do that one thing now, or if you don't do it. Once you understand it from that perspective, it might get you motivated. And at the end, I'm going to give you some tips for procrastination and being overwhelmed. Okay. Break large projects into smaller sections. Well, this is part of it. Work on parts of a project at a time to avoid the feeling of overwhelm that comes with large projects. It's easy to feel overloaded or like you don't know where to begin when faced with something huge, and we all do. It could be moving, it could be a big project, it could be a show that you're putting on. But the trick with anything huge is to keep breaking it down into small, manageable parts. You can do a part of a project at a time. You can work in small doses of time, either way, whichever works for you, but it really does help you move forward. One of my best tips, it's so old-fashioned and people still do it today, is get yourself a kitchen timer. You want to do something, set it for 15 minutes and say, you know what, I can do anything for 15 minutes. And then when the bell goes off, just stop. Chances are you won't, but that absolutely will propel you and move you forward. Okay. 5 minutes to change your life. Here's the thing. Whatever it is that you need to do, whether it's to start working on that business plan you've been thinking about for 3 years or helping your kids with their homework, whatever it is, 5 minutes to change your life is a strategy. It's a tool that will help you to change your life. It's a game changer, actually. And this is a tool that will stop whatever you're trying to get done from feeling like an onerous chore. All you have to do is start the task knowing that you only have to do it for 5. You start at 5 minutes and then you can work up to 15. Then you get to walk away. You don't have to think about it or even complete the task, but just those 5 minutes will move you forward. 5 minutes is easier than 15, but 15 minutes goes by so quickly. Okay. Create a personal navigation system. Create your own personal navigation system and start every day with a plan. Spend at least 30 minutes every morning, better yet the night before, sorting it out. Use your diary or the chalkboard or whatever it is that you like in your office on your phone to note down your plan. It gives you direction. This is so critical. One of the most important things you can do to better manage your time is to know where your time goes. So hopefully you have a plan, let's say for the week, for the day. You can sharpen it the night before. You just need to look at it and spend a little time trying to figure out if it makes sense. You've got, let's say you have some errands to do. Is there something else you can do in that neighborhood? Look through the things you want to do for the next day so that in the morning you just are on autopilot and you go. If you can't do it the night before because you get into bed and you just fall asleep, then do it first thing in the morning. But knowing where you're headed is going to give you, of course, it gives you direction and helps you to get the things done that you want to do. Okay. And the next slide. All right. Again, this is my favorite. Don't multitask. Multitasking won't get the job done. It's actually unproductive. And research shows that, and studies have shown that as well. Switching attention from one task to another is a big time waster, not a time saver. Tasks then don't get your full attention, which means they're not done properly. They take longer than needed. Focus on one task at a time. It'll help you to do it well. So stay focused on one task at a time. You'll get more mileage for your time. And this looks like so many people that I know. There's just too much to do and never enough time. Okay. Turn off distractions. I was talking to someone else about this. This one is vital, especially in this age of distractions that we live in. Between phone calls, tests, social media, notifications, and our many alarms or reminders and whistles, concentration is constantly switching between tasks. As we know, multitasking isn't productive, and to get anything done, we need to focus on one thing at a time. So temporarily switch off anything that distracts you. It will allow you to concentrate. This is so important. So when you need to do something important, whatever it is, creating a schedule or writing a report, whatever it is, turn off distractions. Turn off the phone, turn off notifications. Those notifications will get you every time. Turn off anything, any bells that you have going on, because it does take away from your focus and the things that you need to get done. And what happens, you're working on something, you become distracted. You get let's say a notification about a sale or about somebody's post on Instagram just came up. So you stop one thing, you start something else, and you just lose that trend of working, and your motivation switches off too. Okay. Delegate or outsource. I love this. Delegate the right job to the right person to free up your time for the tasks that you need to do. Sometimes there's just too much for one person to do. So the best way to manage is to outsource the work. Focus on your zone of genius, what you're best at that no one else can do, and then hand over the rest to someone else. It will free up a lot of your time. I'm big on this. You don't have to spend money. You can barter. That's the time-honored system of exchanging favors. So your neighbor was a great accountant and you're a great cook, and you just switch the favor. It's done all the time. But again, focus on your zone of genius. What are you great at? And don't waste time doing things that you really don't like. Bring someone in to help you do it. But getting someone, outsourcing the other stuff, if you can, makes a lot of sense with your time. Okay? Be aware of deadlines. Be aware of deadlines and start there. When you're aware of your deadlines, it gives you a starting point, but it also allows you to create a timeline for getting it done. This is especially important if others rely on your getting things done within the deadline. It will keep you on top of things. So especially, it's really getting to places on time when things open up and we really need to be showing up on time. It's one of the strongest impressions you can make. So what do? You look, this is just one example. You look when you have to get there, you think of all the things you need to do, you add up how long those things are going to take, add on another 15, 20 minutes and work backwards and start there. That will help you to get to appointments on time. With deadlines, it's being really crystal aware of what's in front of you. You might want to put a big chalkboard up. It could be Post-it notes to remind you of deadlines so that you're always on top of what you need to do. Okay? No time wasters. Arm yourself against time wasters. They're all around us. There are numerous time wasters in our modern era, such as waiting for others to do something before you can act, checking emails constantly, or spending all your time on social media, or just saying yes to everyone. Notice what you waste the most time on and then systematically arm yourself against these. It will give you the gift of more time. So what this also means is that when somebody asks you for an unreasonable request of your time, it's really okay to set the boundaries and say no. It doesn't mean you have to say no all the time, but here's why. It's your life. You get to live it the way you want to, but hopefully you have your goals and hopefully you'll prioritize. If you don't guard your time and get the most out of it, no one's going to do it for you. You need to manage your time and guard it so that you make the most of it for you. And if it means that you can't show up because of another reason, then you don't show up. You might another time, but it's so critical to be aware of what's important to you and eliminate the time wasters. Okay? Honor your personal limits. So be aware of personal limits and don't take on more than you can do. When you overload yourself, you're at a risk of burnout, which will waste even more of your precious time. Set healthy boundaries, become acutely aware of your personal limits, and allow yourself to say no sometimes. When you honor these limits, you can do and be more. It will prevent you from feeling overloaded, which is a big one. Okay? Take a break. So take a break when you need it, anytime you need it. I remember one of the participants in the class said, she's always so busy, has so much to do, she's always online. I said, why don't you schedule a break for yourself and actually go out and walk around the block or whatever it is you want to do. If there are things that you want to accomplish aren't getting done, schedule them, whether it's a break or it's personal time for yourself, or it could be important time with someone in your life. You can schedule it so you know that it actually happens and other things don't ride through it. Trying to push past your limits will leave you feeling overwhelmed to the point of wanting to give up. Learn you can balance your life and balance all the things you want to do if you look at everything and you understand what's important to you, and you take all the breaks that you need. Okay. And you're important too. Write your own story. At the end of the day, make yourself count, because you're important too. Create time for fun, family, exercise, relaxation, mini vacations, doing a crossword puzzle, reading a book, whatever is meaningful to you. It's whatever makes you feel good and whole and worthy. And at the end of the story, write the beginning, because we're going to get organized right now. So I think we have one more slide. Track your time. This is such an important thing to do. And I always urge my participants or anyone to do this. You will learn so much that it will blow your mind. And what this means is, it would be great if you could do it for 5 days. If you can't, do it for 3 days or 2 days. But in your calendar, on a piece of paper, I'd like you to write down what you're doing, let's say every hour. And write down if you're interrupted and who's doing the interrupting. Is there one person, or are you interrupting yourself? Whatever, you will learn so much when you start charting where your time goes. Just do it for a few days. I promise you, it's a gift that you'll give yourself. I remember one client said she couldn't believe it. Her sister would call her like 20 times a day. And there were so many other things that she learned, but you will learn a lot about yourself and how you spend time, what you do with your time. You'll learn a lot about others. This is one of the best tools and the best things you can do. Track your time. I won't be here next week to ask you about it, but I promise you'll be really happy you did this. And I still think there's support. Let's face it, all these things are easier said than done, especially for someone who's disorganized. So I encourage you to seek support if you need it. Ask for help when creating new systems. Listen to advice from professionals like professional organizers and follow their guidance. Find someone who will hold you accountable. Before you know, these habits will create a life that you enjoy. And that's actually the point. I've never heard anyone who says they want to get organized for organization's sake. They get organized because, again, it's a game changer. It just changes your life and gives you more time for the things you want to do. Also, it helps to alleviate all that miserable stress that you feel when you're trying to pack 25 things into a day, and it's just not possible. So again, this slide next is ways to reach me if you need to. Again, my blog, there are plenty of articles on time management. So everything I just said will be right there. And if you need to contact me, I return every single email. Just let me know that you're from Darien Library, and I'll be really happy to help. So before we go on to questions and answers, I put together what I consider the most important tips for you. And this is from 40 years of organizing and working with clients and teaching. So I didn't just make it up. And this will give you value. That's why I wanted to save this to the end. The few tips I'm going to give you will give you the most value in your life and, for of course, time management. So we had talked about prioritizing. It's so critical. Again, you can ask yourself, what's the most important thing for me to do right now? What must get done? What can wait? Because not everything is a priority. And if you're still not sure, you make your list. Try to prioritize. And then at least if you get the first 3 things done, you will have gotten the most important things done when you prioritize. And that's what you want. You want to get the important stuff done. The others can wait, maybe never be done, or you'll get to it. But if you work that way, you'll work smarter. The other is the breaking the projects down. Again, people procrastinate because it's overwhelming, it's time consuming, you'd rather be doing something else. I mean, there are things that none of us really like to do. But again, your assurance against procrastination is if you take any project and you keep breaking it down into these little itty bitty tasks and parts, it makes it easier for you to get the job done. So, so that's what I would suggest. Again, it's working in time slots, working on parts of a project. If you're going to, let's say, you're spring cleaning and you're going through your closet, maybe a part of the project might be pick up everything that's on the floor. That's day one. Maybe day two would be look through your items and any hangers that are broken, get rid of. Just keep breaking it down. You don't have to do everything quickly, everything all at once. If you do it, if you just remember bit by bit, you'll get it done. The next is a place for everything. Everything has its place. And again, I was talking to someone last night about this, who she loses her reading glasses. She has like 20 around her home. And then this gentleman said he does, and then someone else said that they do. Thing is, if you have a place for everything, everything has its place. If you put it back in the same place, you won't lose it. So that's the genius of having a place for everything. And that means like everything. So you don't have to worry about where it is. You don't have to spend ridiculous time. Because you'll know where it is. So that's a really good tip. Learning to say no, be in control of your own time is a big one. And outsourcing, we talked about that, is just keeping in mind your zone of genius, what you're really good at, and focusing on that. And last but not least, again, track your time, because you will learn so much, I promise you. You'll thank me for it if you do. So those were the most important tips that will actually help you organize your time. And I would love to open this up to, we have lots of time, to questions and answers.
How do you suggest
starting with, I don't see the rest of it though.
Piles of paper.
Piles of paper. Did I tell you we're going to get that? Okay, that always comes up. So, all right. So this is, I guess this is a lot of paper that's been building up. And I would, like I said before, people have always asked me about paper. It's like I used to say, it's the #1 American problem, but I would always get called in about it. Again, do you have a filing system? Because if you don't, you should. It could be a filing cabinet. It could be something as simple as an accordion file that you'll find, at Staples or Office Max or CVS, and it doesn't have to be fancy or expensive. But you need a place, again, a home for everything. So you need a place for your papers. So unless it's digital, you can scan it or even take a screenshot of something, which can be time consuming. There are only so many things you can do with a piece of paper. You can file it, you can pay a bill, you can call the people that you need to, you can ask somebody else about it. It might be something you need to get more information on. So I happen to love color coding and color coding files. And why? Because your memory responds to the color first. So you never really misplace anything. You always know like where your medical information is. And if you have a different color file for each huge subject, like one for medical, one for taxes or money, another one for family, however you want to organize it for your life. And it will make it much easier for you to find what you're looking for. Again, it can be an onerous task to go through a lot of papers that have been building up for a long time. I've done this with clients, and I had a client who moved, and there were boxes and boxes and boxes of papers that we had to go through. And it probably took about 6 months, but we did it. And did it for maybe 4 hours a day, a couple of times a week, and it got done. But think about color coding. Again, those accordion files are great. You can just label them, label the categories the way you want, but you do need a place to put all your papers. So that's sort of the basic 101 of organizing your papers. We can get more specific. So do we have more?
Okay.
Yeah.
And Ronni, any tips on dealing with email?
I get asked that every single time. Did I tell you? Before we began, I said, these are the questions that are going to come up. Yes, I mean, email can be crushing. I know, I have to admit, I get so many emails every day, and it's annoying. It's more annoying if you keep going through it all day long. But if you go through your email first thing in the morning, there may be 11 or 12 o'clock, and then maybe 3 or 4 at the end of the day, maybe 4 times a day rather than every half hour, it won't be as annoying. But the first thing you want to do is, with anything that you're organizing, you want to get rid of what you don't need, because you don't want to spend time organizing something you don't need. So I either trash things that aren't of interest, or if I'm having a problem because I keep getting emails from this ridiculous source, I throw it into junk and I never see it again. I also, I don't know if you have this like on your phone, where I often do a lot of work when I'm traveling. I flag emails with different colors. One could be, one is from a certain person that I need to address quickly. Another could be something that I need to do today or tomorrow. You can flag it with colors, whatever colors and associations are meaningful to you. So those are some basic. I know you can think with Gmail. You can put your emails into certain categories, but those are some really just basic ways to be on top of email. And so the first thing, again, get rid of what you don't need and categorize it by flagging. When you, again, it's prioritizing what you need to attend to. It could be money. It could be something about money, that somebody owes you money and that's something you need to work on. It could be an insurance matter. Maybe someone who's requesting to be a guest on your blog might not be something you need to do today. You want to answer the person, maybe you can do it tomorrow or the next day. So just, again, ask yourself, what's the most important email for me to read right now, or actually act on, and go from there. Okay.
Okay, great. This is a little bit of a longer question. Sandani is asking, he says, I'm trying to study something. I'm just losing focus within minutes. I tried doing this repeatedly and failed. Sometimes I get myself motivated and study for 2 to 3 days. After that, again, back to normal. He couldn't continue this. He's failing in consistency. Please help him or help him out on how they can maintain consistency.
With studying, we're talking about studying skills?
With studying.
Okay. So most of us are either larks or owls. We're either great in the morning or great at the end of the day. If there's something that's really critical for you to do, you should choose the time of day when you're going to do it. So I'm a morning person. Believe me, I could never do something important like at night, because I'll fall asleep, and because I get up really early. And then focus, when you have the time of day that you want to work, you want to focus on the important stuff. So in terms of studying, there might be a test or a quiz that's in the next couple of days that might be a little more important than something else. But you should carve out the chunks of time when your focus is clearer. Again, eliminate distractions, because the distractions will actually kill whatever it is you're trying to get done. And it certainly doesn't help with your study methods. The other thing is to try to, and this is really good for studying, try to make your studying time the same time every day. Have some system, some repetition where your brain knows to expect it so that you'll really get it done. So those are a few tips that should help you get started. Good.
Okay, great. And someone's asking, is there a mailing list attached to your blog? Can someone sign on?
Yeah, I do have, yes, because every week we send out mailers and information that you might want to know. So yeah, it's right there. And if you can't find it, just email me and we'll get you on. It's just easy to sign up. And I have a new blog every Monday, a new issue that I press every week. And I know this week was actually, I was a guest on someone's post about life transitions. And next week, let's see, what are we doing next week? We're going to address why is your home so messy and what can you do about it? It's a little bit different, a little different focus on clutter, but it's really like, you really work hard to organize and your place still looks messy. Why? I'm going to show you why next week. So there are about almost 70 articles there. So you'll find whatever it is you need to
Terrific.
Learn. Yeah.
And someone's asking, how can you distinguish between urgent and something that's important?
It's a really good question. So, okay, let's think of it in other terms. Urgent is, you got to get someone to the hospital. It's urgent. Important is, I fell, I have to ice my knee. There's a difference there. It's, something urgent. And the thing is that there aren't many tasks and activities that are really and truly urgent. It's like, it's more important to focus on important and not important rather than urgent. Urgent, you will know about because it's life-changing. It's something that your life will suffer if you don't focus on that. So there really aren't many urgent. I mean, if your boss says, look, you got to get this done or you're out the door. All right, that's urgent. Right. But you have to be, most things don't fall into that category. They fall into important, not so important, and things that don't ever have to get done. It's more likely they'll fall into those categories.
Great. And another question is, do you have any tips for staying on top of scheduling appointments?
Yes, I do. So it's on top of scheduling or knowing the appointment. It's actually twofold.
They said on staying on top of scheduling appointments. Okay.
So I'm going to answer it in two different ways.
Sure.
So if there are certain appointments that you need to make, it again, repetition is a great system. That means, as an example, let's say every January and June, you go to the dentist, or is it July? You go to the dentist. You always know if it's January, I'm going to the dentist. If it's July, I'm going to the dentist. Things like that. You schedule like the same time every year. You can also create a list. You can keep the list on your calendar, in a folder, whatever, you can write it out. It doesn't matter. And it's a list of the things that you really want to schedule in your life. For instance, some people will use the change of time, which we had a few weeks ago, as the weekend to start spring cleaning. And then in the fall, the weekend to put things away. So you can use different times of the year that might ring that bell for you. That's really that. In terms of scheduling, what's important is not overcrowding yourself, because then it just sets you up for failure and creates a lot of stress. And it's just being smart about what you really can accomplish and leaving a lot of extra time to get to places. And again, I explained how you work backwards, knowing when you have to leave to get there on time. So that's the basics. Another thing you can do, I love this, it's called a tickler file. Have you heard of that, Pat?
Mm-hmm.
A tickler file? And that's where you date file papers that you don't need to date, but you can't throw them out. You will need them. Let's say tickets to a place, airline to something like that, that you need actually the hard copy, or the invitation to your cousin's wedding. So you just create, let's say, an accordion file, a tickler file where it's labeled January through December. And it's generally 1 through 31, but you don't have to be that tight about it. You can just make it January, February, and you put the papers that you need to keep for appointments in that file per month. So that's a tickler file. And you can actually write on your calendar not to forget to look in the file. The other thing you can do, and I remembered learning this so many years ago when I just started, a gentleman who was another gentleman in real estate. I mean, he went on to become the top of one of the biggest real estate firms in the country. I remember looking at him, he had all these 3x5 cars. And I said, what are you doing? And he said, what he does every morning is he puts his buyers on one and sellers on the other, and he flips through the cards every single morning, and then thinks if there's a new match he can make between buyer and seller. And I thought that was so smart. It was genius because he was on top of everything. And that's similar with scheduling. If you flip through your calendar, or whether it's a day planner or online, doesn't matter. If you flip through it once quickly every day or every few days, you'll be on top of what you're supposed to do. When you have that doctor's appointment, when you're meeting someone for a job, you won't forget it if you flip through it. Okay.
Okay, good, good.
And by the way, a lot of these sound, oh my God, there's so much to do. Once you start, it just becomes, again, autopilot. You will just keep doing it. You just have to start, and it becomes second nature to you. Okay.
This is a little bit of a long question. Elise is asking, how do you get young kids to maintain their space and get them up and running on chores? There's an extra challenge in that the 8-year-old shares time between Elise's house, messy, but she's attempting to teach her, and staying at her dad's house, who's a minimalist, but would rather do the work himself versus teaching the daughter.
You know, one of my other classes on clutter, my favorite slides are the ones of a little girl who I worked with, teaching her some organization skills because her parents were beside themselves. It was great. It was so much fun. What I did is I let her choose. I said, okay, we're going to hang up these clothing. How do you want to hang them up? What do you want together? You know, but the deal was you got to keep it that way. She organized her books the way she wanted to. She organized her drawers the way she wanted to. I showed her how to fold certain things that she happened to really enjoy learning to do, which she was really visual. When I went back, it was still that way. I was actually surprised. It was still that way because I let her own it. So I think that's one thing with kids, let them try to design their own methods of where they should put their toys. For really little ones, you want to create, let's say, baskets that are low enough for them to reach. They should be labeled. If they're really young, have pictures instead, or pictures, you know, and labels. That helps. And then, or you can color code again. You know, everything, the Legos go into the green, and the dolls go into another color. That sorting and organization will stay with them forever. It's a great thing to do. Teaching kids organization from a really young age. In terms of their chores, how about if you were to put a chart up, and the kids' names and the days of the week and the chores, or we used to do this in camp when we were little. We would have, like, it looked like a clock and all the chores and everyone's name, and we would spin it, and whatever it came out to, that was your chore for the day. So that could work. It may not, you know, but at least if you have this flow chart up, they'll know what to expect, and you just rotate it week to week. Okay.
Okay. I think that is pretty much
Okay,
the questions.
good.
So we're good.
We're good. If you think of something, just write it to me,
Thank you so much, Ronnie. This has been illuminating
Yeah,
and
good.
can't wait to start prioritizing.
Definitely. If you don't do anything else, if you just leave here and you forget everything that I said, don't forget to prioritize, because that's going to be your best friend. Thank you so much for saying that. Helpful. Good. Prioritize, prioritize, prioritize. That's the name you want to remember. That will make a difference in your time. Good.
Terrific. Thank you so much, Ronnie.
Your
Thank you all
pleasure.
for joining us.
Thank you. Thank you. Oh, I'm so glad. I'm glad that you liked it. Good. I love teaching.
I bet.
Yeah, good. So we're going to stay on for a couple of minutes, and you and
Yes.
and good. Okay, you're so welcome, everyone. It was quite lovely. Thank you.